You feeling lonely? Speaking of loneliness, um, no, it's very haunting, and it's very
Beautiful.
it's very thought out, I think,
Mhm.
and the fact that he's kind of the loneliest person. He's basically the loneliest person in the world. Like nobody is able to even because even when you have I think in a show that kind of has a similar feeling of like isolation and loneliness and is like Mad Men, right, with Don Draper, where nobody really knows that he's, and then as the show goes on, obviously more people kind of find out that he's not who he says he is and all of this stuff. In this person is walled off from like there's nobody that knows who he is. Like there's nobody that knows, like some people know what he does but don't know anything about his personal life, and some people know about tiny things about his personal life, like like Amy in the apartment, or like Meredith when he finally tells her something, but then those people don't really know that much about what he does for a living, I think. So it's fascinating to have like both of those kind of going on simultaneously. And
Yeah.
and for him to find out that he's kind of a celebrity in the field of surveillance is kind of it's this movie feels a lot. It's written and I want to hear Francesca's thoughts on this. It's kind of written kind of like a comedy, right? Like it's kind of like you're waiting for a prolonged joke, and you're waiting.
Oh, if like Jason was sitting there with the laugh track, then it would be funny. Like
No, but you're kind of waiting for a punchline. You're waiting for a punchline, and finally, I think when he's in his apartment and the entire thing is destroyed, and he can't find the bug, and you're wondering if there even was a bug or if it's in the saxophone. Like that kind of feels like it's this ironic punchline in some ways.
Yeah. I mean, well, there's a constant mystery, but I do think that the question is the mystery, is there even a mystery? Is it just his state of being that he's highly paranoid, racked with guilt, and there's actually nothing left to find out. There is no secret murder. There is no plot. There is no evil behind the scenes. There might have been, but it largely fizzled out. I don't know. I think he's just having to deal with his own brain.
I mean, I do think that he's imagining in his own mind that that's what happened. But I also think that he did see the hand kind of hit up against the wall, and there was like blood on the hand. And then it is true that at the end, I don't know if that's something that he imagined. I mean,
no, I'm just kidding. Am I crazy though? Like, I feel like the way it's cut, like ever since the dream sequence, we just don't know what's real and what's not real anymore. Yeah. And it just doesn't, everything's so realistic. Everything is so based in, okay, this is our work. This is what we would do. So suddenly you have a murder on your hands, and there's no detective work. There's no hotel staff. He's not confiding in anyone. He doesn't go tell anyone about it. Like suddenly we've lost all, there's no grip on reality anymore. He's not following any norms that he would usually follow. Honestly, if he witnessed a murder, he'd fucking tell someone.
I don't think he would.
He doesn't have anyone to tell, I don't think.
Yeah.
Yes, I agree with that.
I mean, unless he went to the cops, but
who would he confide in?
But it seems like the cops even are in on. If something did happen, the cops are even in on it. Like the entire. I feel like this is very. It kind of predicts the idea of kind of the the intelligence machine, like the CIA, as we find out about it in like 1972, kind of 2 years before this, I think, starting around then, like realizing that this is kind of a self-correcting organism. Like if somebody gets killed, right? Someone's a liability, they get killed, and then the machine kind of just fixes itself. And in the same way, like she all of a sudden may or may not inherit like his position, his money. She might have had all of that to gain from it. Like they're asking her at the end, like, what's going to happen to the company? What's going to happen to this? And the way that they kind of have him as the director and not as like the CEO, not as something else, it kind of feels like the machine self-corrects, and then all the executives know exactly what happened, but they clean it up, and the machine self-corrects. You can't push the two like other highest executives out of the way. It's that like one of the heads of the Hydra kind of got lobbed off, and the rest of the Hydra has to keep going.
Yeah, well, okay, so that's a lot. I think that
I'm curious as to your guys' thoughts, because I'm like not convinced that any of that is real. But maybe you saw it 3 times for us, so shit.
Yeah, I've seen it 3 times as well, but like over a space of a really long time, and I got way more out of it.
I'm just kidding.
And yeah, no.
Next.
We don't have Andy here to give him a hard time, Conan, so you're stepping up to the plate now.
Yeah, I'm apparently the low man on the totem pole in this outfit. Who knew? Well,
there's no totem pole. We all love you.
Well, and the feeling
I barely know you.
Okay. Well, let me only speak for myself. Then I'm sorry.
But Erica was
Conan,
very free in committing your love, nonetheless, and that's what I appreciate about Erica Strout.
I love Erica. That's not in question. That is that's like Bond is deep. Arrival. This. Come on now.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, gang. Too.
That Neutron cat.
But let me, like, I'm not a director. I have no idea how any of that works. But I when you observe the way things are shot, the way things are edited compared to the first half of the film and the last 20 minutes, completely different. Apples and oranges. And I think we're collapsing into his mania, into his psychosis, into his imagination. I don't think we are seeing a real murder unfold in real time. It would have been filmed completely differently. I mean, I don't know. I think that they're trying to tell us something with how it's edited and filmed, that actually this is not a reliable account.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with that. And I think that it's possible that Conan, sorry, I have this one thought. I think it's possible that he's kind of putting the pieces together. Like, I think it's possible that maybe he did die in a car accident. He sees the headline, and then because it does look like kind of flashbacks. You're kind of imagining what's happening. But like maybe those he's putting those pieces together. Conan, do you have thoughts on this?
Well, yes, I do, Forrest. I think that this is a guy that lives in his head. So is the way that it's filmed differently? I think it's definitely an aesthetic that is meant to sort of blur the lines a little bit. But I think there is something real there, because if you think back, like, what's the inciting incident? Well, he like overhears these people like, oh, they're worried they're going to be killed. And it turns out they're plotting the murder. Right. And he's in this position. I mentioned this on the main show, but that's the inciting incident. If he does not take action, something will happen. And that's the thing that makes him, Heisenberg effect, right? The act of observing something changes it. He's a participant now. So
you're goddamn right.
Therefore, if you, I wasn't thinking of that Heisenberg. I was thinking of the actual Heisenberg, but I appreciate the reference. But
you like the football trophy?
Then the way that at the end of it, it seems like, okay, so maybe this is in his head. Maybe this is like what he extrapolated out after he kind of like loses it a little bit after getting like betrayed the way that he does, and just like, being like at a loss, et cetera, et cetera. But I think it's actually very possible that it's real as well. And this is a guy that, like, again, he has no one to confide in. Right. So maybe some of it, like, did he see it or not? Who knows? Maybe he doesn't know. And that's part of what makes it interesting at the end, where he rips up like to the floorboards the entire place. So it's just literally him and the saxophone, the lonely saxophone playing.
The one place he doesn't look.
Right. And it's like, dude is probably in the fucking saxophone. Like, you didn't think, like, you've talked about the saxophone for like an hour and a half at this party. Like, he's probably in the saxophone. But I think it's
apart the Virgin Mary.
Exactly. Even the Virgin Mary.
Made of rubber.
Yeah, I was expecting it to smash. He kept like hammering it, and I was like, "Why isn't it smashing?" Oh my god!
Totally.
Plastic.
That his religiosity is a really interesting point of all this. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, I think it's real. I do think it's real, but I fully get that when someone would think it's not, and like I can vibe with that too. It doesn't make it any less of a movie for me. But
no. Yeah.
Yes, I agree.
I feel like I need to go watch it again.
Did you, but upon first watch, Erica, were you like, oh damn, that's who actually was planning the murder and that's who got killed? Or were you like, I don't know what's really going on? Was it?
I was definitely sort of confused, but I also, I think I took the twist literally, where it's like, oh, she was actually trying to kill her father, who seems like probably his like father-daughter, right? So like
I think either wife or daughter. Yeah, I couldn't quite.
No, I thought it was wife. I thought she was the wife.
Oh.
That's what
Okay.
I thought she was the wife. She's having an affair with like one of the highest executives. They think that they can get a better position within the company. They also think that probably that by he might come after them. No. I do believe that part is real. They kind of have the same paranoia. They're like, he'd kill us if he had the chance. So they kind of see this as like a cat and mouse game, that they're going to confront him, and kill him before he can kill them. And it seems like Harrison Ford, I couldn't really tell if he's setting up his boss or if he's trying to warn him, and then once the
it could go either way happens,
okay,
but then it kind of has to be, it's a self-correcting corporate organism. Like you can't like well because these are like the 3 highest people probably in some degree at this company, so it's like you can't, if those people go to jail, the company is done. So you have to self-correct and say, hey, this person died in an accident, we found the body, like, and then everyone's asking like, oh, like you're going to inherit the company because you're the wife, like what's going to happen to it? And she's not answering the questions. And it's like, everybody knows that information. I don't know. I had questions at the end of it too, because it does seem like he's putting that together and he's coming up with the idea that that's what happened. He sees her, she looks fine. And he's like, in his mind, he's like, oh, this is what happened. That doesn't mean that's not what happened, though.
What's in the instance where they're listening to the tapes? You've got Robert Duvall and young Harrison Ford, and Duvall says, "You want this to be real, right?"
Yeah.
And what does that mean? Is he saying you want the affair to be real?
Yeah.
Okay.
My reading of it, at least, was that Harrison Ford is telling him, your wife is cheating on you. Your wife is cheating on you. He's like, I don't believe it. I need to actually, because they say, well, like, he wants to hear the proof. Like, he wants to hear the evidence. He doesn't, you can't use lip readers because they could get confused. Like, he's in denial that this is happening. And Harrison Ford seems to be like, no, this is happening. Now, the question is Harrison Ford trying to convince him because then he'll go to the apartment and get murdered? Or is Harrison Ford trying to convince him because he's like, you need to do something about this? And then once it happens, he self-corrects.
Is it earnest or complicit, basically? Like, is he part of like this overall plan or not? And I mean,
yeah, I thought he was part of the conspiracy at first.
Yeah, he definitely gives off those vibes. He has big conspiracy vibes.
Yeah,
I mean, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, it seems feasible too that potentially, like, if they killed him in the hotel and then like put him in a car and pretended, there was a car accident, like the newspaper doesn't necessarily negate Harry's perspective on it.
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot going on under the surface that we can just speculate about all night.
Yeah, I think you guys are right. If it is real, then the way that they filmed it and edited it, they wanted it to feel like he's going crazy, like he's going nuts, like you're in his head. Yeah. You start outside of his head, and then you really just get into the victim who he thought was the victim is no longer the victim. It's now the perpetrator.
Well, and he's gotten sloppy because now he's a detective. He's not an active observer, which is what he's good at, right? Like, he's good at listening to people and just going, all right, well, I bugged them. This is what they said. I have no bearing on this. I don't feel something either way. Like, I'm just recording whatever people do with those tapes. That's their business. And throughout the movie, he's still trying to convince himself of that after fleeing, watching or seeing, like, 3 people literally get decapitated, ripped to pieces, and put in different areas, which you can assume it probably has something to do with the mafia at that point. They're saying in that union, like, but whatever happened there in the Sopranos,
more anti-union propaganda.
Hey, at least it's consistent,
It was really funny though, because that you gave me that context, because I was kind of thinking like, oh, there we go. It's got to be some corrupt, union boss killing somebody, blah blah blah. Anyway, yeah.
Well, if I may, I think it's amazing we've gotten this far in discussing this film, which I personally adore, without talking about Blow Up from '66. Antonioni. So there was an American version actually starred, so it was Blow Out, and it stars John Travolta, and they changed it from being a photographer to him being like a sound, like guy who records sound. Talk about more sound design, right? And actually, it's a great film.
I haven't seen Blow Up, but I do know that it involves a photograph and is shot in a very similar way. That's and
in the same way, this small thing of this person, this thing that this person does all the time, becomes part of a larger plot and events that wrap them up into this world. And and Coppola's flat out said, like, that was definitely an inspiration for this. But of course,
I stole it.
Yeah, I done stole it, and I done
stole it.
But I think that the fact of like what is the conspiracy exactly, it doesn't really matter. I don't think it really matters. Like, and I think that this is think about other movies around this time, like 3 Days of the Condor and Parallax View, stuff like that, right? Where it's sort of like, what a great era. Hey guys, remember when conspiracies were fun? You know, and not radicalizing grandmama. Yeah.